Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dogman Sasquatch Oklahoma Encounters. My name is Lance Hightower, one of the Cryptid brothers, and I'll be your host for this episode. It's so good to always be back talking with you guys. I hope the week has been well for you and your families. Life goes on. It's been so very, very busy here, so I can only imagine what it is in your neck of the woods, wherever you're at. So we have a very, very interesting encounter by a gentleman that was very reluctant on giving us a call. It's right out of Oklahoma, my home state, and it is very strange and bizarre what happened. Again, he was very reluctant on even calling, but after months of mental debate, he decided to, and afterward, he's so glad that he did. In fact, we have already arranged where we're going to conduct an investigation there on his property. And so, as you will hear soon, it was a very strange encounter. He did not know these things existed, but he has yet to tell really anyone in his family what he shared with me and that we're about to share with you. So before we get started here, as a small token of our appreciation and thank you to you guys, for without you we would not have a show. We appreciate you so much for listening and commenting and sharing our show with many, many of your good friends out there. We appreciate you. And in doing so, we want to read off some of the channel names here. If I get it wrong, if I pronounce your name wrong, I apologize, but I'll just do my best here. So we have John Tiltor, Joe Esquita, Zeth Brock, Lauren Trudeau, DeWolf Skates, Claire Gosling, Jordan French, YB the King, Brian Tomlinson, Niggs Wins, Joe Boss, Don Orwig, Mike Roy, Rwanda 1952, WR Teague 2003, and Cindy Asseri. Thank you guys so very much. We sincerely appreciate you, and I want to say a thank you again to Keith Smith and his son, and all the way from Ireland. Your shirts are on the way, guys. I appreciate you, and I'm so happy that you comment and that you participate in listening to the show. And also, we want to give a shout-out to a gentleman out of Oklahoma City. He is a truck driver and listens faithfully to our show and always calls every once in a while our toll-free number to give us some good information. So, Mo, if you're listening out there, buddy, this show is for you. I appreciate you, and be safe out there. So, in moving on here, I want to say that, again, this gentleman called in. His name is JC. He didn't want to give too many details, and out of respect and courtesy, we didn't want to get too detailed on where he lives, but he owns a piece of property in Oklahoma. He purchased for deer hunting, and back in March of this year, 2017, he had an encounter. He was by himself while he was in his truck, and he was heading out to his deer property, going to meet his son-in-law out there to put some deer feeders. And the property's not large by no means, but it's adequate for deer hunting. And on the way, he had an encounter that he'll never forget. He was a little nervous and shook up in debating whether to call me and during our interview process, but he did just fine. And after it was all done, he was so thankful that he did call. So, like we say, someone last night, somewhere in the United States, in fact, probably multiple places, and I'm going to say Oklahoma and in many states, someone had an encounter last night of a creature they couldn't explain, whether it was a dogman, a Sasquatch, and it's today they're waking up and they go through the day, they just don't know who to turn to. If it was a couple, they're debating, what did we see, who do we tell? They're debating whether to tell anyone, and it's frightening. They don't know who to go to. It's very releasing to share something you don't understand or can't explain. We know that. It's a very healthy thing to share. So if you know someone, including yourself, you've been debating on whether you should call or talk to someone, we'll listen. We don't have to know your name. We don't have to know the details of specifically what you do for a living. We just want to know what happened, how it happened, and what is your view now of what's out there in the woods. It could have occurred in a rural town, on a hiking trail, in a state park, scouting. This time of the year, deer hunters are going out doing some pre-scouting before deer season gets here in October. So again, if you know someone that's had a weird encounter that terrified them, or they just want to get it off their chest, encourage them to give us a call on our toll-free number. We appreciate that. We appreciate you, and we respect all encounters, and we judge no one because we've had our own experiences and encounters as well. So let's kick back here and listen to the interview that JC gave. He was a great guy. I enjoyed our conversation. We're going to head out his way here in the next coming weeks to his property to do some on-site investigation and to put up some very unique cameras that we hope to capture some footage. And if we do, we will share it with you, I promise. So let's go now with JC in the interview of him telling that one early morning what he saw in March of this year.
I bought that place in Daisy, Oklahoma about 2 years ago for my grandkids to hunt on, you know?
Okay.
And it was in March of this year. We went up there and we were going to fill the feeders up and everything and get ready for spring turkey season. And anyway, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 maybe. I mean, you know, it was about 45 minutes to an hour before daylight.
Right,
and
right.
And it's starting to get real small road, you know, and it's right when you cross into Pittsburgh County. There's a Pittsburgh County sign right in the corner, and right when I turned the corner, this thing walked across the road, went right by that Pittsburgh County sign, and just, I mean, it's like he knew I was there. I mean, you know, he seen the lights and everything in the truck. I know he did. But he just, like, he didn't flinch, it's like he just goes, huh, you know, and just kept on walking.
Well,
and let me tell you, this thing, it was huge. That sign, I cannot even touch the bottom of that sign, and I'm like, I'm 5'10", okay?
All right.
I cannot even touch the bottom of that sign without jumping.
Good
okay?
night.
That sign was at this thing's shoulder.
Oh.
Okay? And he might have been a little bit closer to the sign, but it looked like to me he walked like right in front of it. You know?
Right, right.
This thing was huge. The arms were, like people say, they were past his knee. I mean, this thing was no bear. I've been to Colorado, and I've seen bear, and I've seen everything else. But let me tell you, this thing just walking was moving faster than I can run.
Really?
Yes. I mean, he was just, and smooth. I mean, just, and he went, there's bars and everything else right there, Lance.
Right.
And he went right through it like it was nothing.
I've heard that. So many times.
And I don't know if he's stepping up over it and coming down, because, I mean, it seemed like his waist was almost my head height.
Wow. That's huge.
I mean, this is the biggest creature I've ever seen in my life, and I mean, it shook me to my core.
Did anyone else see it?
No, my son-in-law was coming behind me.
Yes, sir.
And I beat him up there. You know, I'm probably about 40 minutes ahead of him, and because we were gonna, you know, make sure there was no bees in our stands and all. You know, we wanted to spend a good day up there. And anyway, this thing, it was a reddish brown color, but it had a lot of gray in it.
Okay.
I mean, around, like his cape over his, it's like he had long hair on his head, which, you know, it was. I really didn't get a good look at his face because he just kind of. It's like he glanced, but I was in shell shock. But he had like really long hair in the back, and it just all flowed together. He had a pretty good. It looked like horsehair. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. My brother Lane, when he saw his, that's how he described it. When he first saw his, he said he thought it was an Appaloosa because it was a moonlit night and the hair flowed so smooth, he thought it was the mane of an Appaloosa horse because his was a white silver.
Yeah. And this one, it had a lot of gray in it, the around the head area especially. And it just, I watched this thing for maybe, oh God, it was about probably 10, 15 seconds maybe, because it just walked across there. It didn't waste any time. It just went across there. And it was like a flash. But when he was walking across there, it was like slow motion. I don't know how to explain it. It was weird, and
so it was so smooth that it almost looked like it wasn't, the fluidity of his motion or forward gait was so smooth, it was effortless.
Yes. It was just like gliding. It was...
Yep. That's exactly what my brother said. It was gliding.
Golly, it was the damnedest thing I've ever seen in my life. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think a gun would bring this thing down with one shot. This thing is just, it's huge.
Was there, when you first saw it, how close or estimate, how close were you in your vehicle to it when you first saw it?
30 feet.
How close?
30 feet.
30, not 30 yards, but 30 feet.
30 feet.
Oh my gosh. You were close.
It rocked me to my core because I had the window down in my truck.
Yes.
And people say, that they smell. I didn't smell anything. Okay? Or nothing like that. This thing could have easily turned and walked over there and pulled me out of my truck. It would have tore my truck door off. It could have. This thing's arms was bigger than my legs.
Wow.
And chiseled. It was just, man, it was built, dude.
Could you tell, I know there was a lot going on in a short time, but could you tell what sex this creature was?
No, sir, I could not. Because by the time, when I first noticed it going across, I noticed the legs first, because I was looking down at the road,
Right.
And I seen the legs go across the headlights of the truck. Then I started looking up, and it was going across the passenger side of the windshield, and then it went on across, and I watched it. The main time I seen it, it was going away from me, and I was watching it through the passenger window, which was down. And this thing scared me to death. It made no aggression, made no noise. I heard no grunt, nothing like that. It just walked across there. Like it had something to do, and it didn't have time to jack with me or something, because it was just gone.
Well, about what time was this again in the day?
Oh, it was about probably, I'd say anywhere from 5 to 5:30.
Tell me a little bit, if you wouldn't mind, describe a little bit of, now, I've been in Oklahoma practically all my life, and I know where you're talking about, but that particular area where you were at, could you tell me a little bit about what the terrain and the plant, what did it look like there, that region?
It's got a lot of streams and stuff, and there's a lot of ponds around. It's where the oak trees, there's quite a few oak trees right in there, but it's where the pine trees start. There's quite a few pine trees, and it walked right in front of that Pittsburgh County sign.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, my place is probably about, I'd say about 2 miles, maybe up the mountain. And anyway, and there's one thing that I did notice, and I didn't think nothing about it at the time, but during deer season, right at the very start of deer season,
yes,
a little bit before deer season, we put out some mineral blocks under the feeders,
Yes, yes. Uh-huh.
We went out there the next week, and they were totally gone.
Gone. Both of them?
Both of them.
Yeah, deer don't get up and pick them up, and they don't lick that fast either. Something had to take it. Something had to take it.
And yeah, we were thinking somebody else took them from down the hill, but if they took those, what in the world? Why didn't they take my deer feeder or my camera? Because I got a camera that's right there.
Ah, great question. Great question.
There was nothing on my camera. It shows my block there, and I didn't keep none of these pictures because, I didn't think nothing about it at the time, so I just went through there deleting them, because it wasn't nothing on it. But it shows the block there, and then the block was gone.
Do you want to hear my theory on that?
What's that?
Here's my theory on those game cameras. And because I had this conversation with a young gentleman out of Tennessee regarding very similar, except he saw a dog creature. And my theory on that is whether you're talking Moultrie, you're talking Bushnell, and some.
Yeah, mine's Moultrie, I think.
Moultrie, and that's a popular brand, and they're pretty good game cams. There's all kinds of sizes now. They're getting smaller. But here's my theory. They're getting faster with the shutter speed, which is what we need. But I personally think a couple things here, and I'm not the first to say this. Coonbo and Bear talk about this all the time, Bigfoot Outlaws. But it is our opinion, and Wiley Dave's too, that they can see infrared because of their extreme nocturnal vision, which is so much better than ours at night. They have the ability to see within that red spectrum of light, the infrared. And so if that game camera comes on at night, it's like a beacon. It's like a beacon that they can see. And so they know where those game cameras are. But secondly, if it's during the day, they know where those game cameras are at as well. So especially when you leave them about the 4 or 5 foot height. Now deer does not have the self-awareness, obviously, like a Sasquatch or a Dogman creature has. So it's just an animal that survives and thrives and eats, and when it gets used to something that doesn't bother them, they start feeding around it, like game cameras and stands and whatnot. So I think my theory is that these things see that camera, and that camera does not actuate that shutter speed fast enough. And my theory is that they run by that so fast and grab that salt block, the camera can't pick it up. And so all you're going to get is salt block present, salt block gone. Now that's just my theory. I cannot prove that. But because of the sheer speed and strength of these things, it's like you and I running by and picking up a pair of dice.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you this. I mean, this thing was just, it didn't look like it was in a hurry, and it was just walking, and this thing was moving faster than I can run, and I can run pretty fast.
So it could cover a lot of ground in a short time.
Oh, man. Yes.
I had a buddy that was up around your area, and he was on private land, and he was in a deer stand. He likes to get up early in the morning, and he was in a deer stand early, dark 30, right? It's the moon's still out, And just about daybreak, it's starting to get light, but everything's still silhouette. And he saw a shadow, coming through. He could hear it. And he kind of thought, well, dadgum, I thought I was the only hunter in this area. It's private land. And this thing was hoofing it. He said there was no flashlight. There was no talking. He saw it. And before you know it, it was already through. And it just passed through. It was on a mission. And as the daybreak came and it was kind of mid-morning, he decided to get out of his stand and stretch and go back and get lunch. And he noticed that when he got down, he saw the briars was so thick, so dense and immense. He said, there's no way I could have ran through it. He said there were so many briars through there, he couldn't even walk through it. So it was baffling to him. He said, I never put it together that may have been a squatch. So you were by yourself. You were waiting on your son-in-law.
Yeah, I was driving. I was going on up, because there's no stop sign or nothing there. It's just kind of a tight corner. And I was pulling my side-by-side behind me. And, I thought it was a deer at first, because I just seen a flash across there.
Right.
I thought it was the underbelly of a deer. Well, I looked up, and then that's when I seen it, and I hit the brakes, and it's like I froze, and I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think I could have ran if I wanted to because I was so scared.
Did you stop the car?
Yeah. Yeah, I stopped the truck right there in the corner. And like I said, I watched this thing for probably 10 or 12 seconds as it walked on across and went over there, and it went across a fence. There's a fence line that runs up that tree line there that it disappeared into.
Yes.
And I never even seen it step over the fence. It just, and it just gone,
What do you think, in your best guesstimation, with that height of that sign that you couldn't even touch, what roughly do you think the total height was to the top of its head?
I don't know. He had to have been at least 10 foot tall.
Dang. Amazing.
It just, I've seen some big animals, and I've dealt with horses and cows my whole life. And, this thing was just massive. And I'm going to tell you right now, it was probably a good 2.5 or 3 feet from chest to its back, thick.
Really?
Yes. This thing was huge.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question that is going to be silly to ask, but I'm still going to ask it. What, in your opinion, after what you saw, its gait, its walking ability, its speed, its height, is it likely that was a man in a suit?
No way. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
I agree. I'm just asking. I just wanted to hear what you would say.
Andre the Giant. This thing would dwarf Andre the Giant.
No kidding.
Yes.
Wow. Did you?
And you know what really scared me is after I got to thinking, and we went back and looked, and I really didn't see any tracks or nothing, and you could tell the briars had been moved a little bit. Because you could see where the leaves had scooted a little bit when the briars moved.
Right.
But there, I didn't see any tracks, and I got to looking up at that sign, and I couldn't even touch the bottom of it. And I'm like, oh my God, and then this has got me scared. I don't want to leave my 10-year-old grandson in a deer blind down there.
Yeah, well, and this is, when we get on and we start talking about things, part of me doesn't want to I don't want to be a fear monger. I don't want to prevent people from enjoying the woods, because there's a lot of benefit, a lot of fun, a lot of enjoyment in the the woods of Oklahoma and across our states.
Yeah,
and,
my dad was born and raised in Tahlequah. And, you know, I've been up in that area my whole life, and I've had a bear on my place. I've got a picture of a bear on my trail cam, and you know, and I've been around bear. We've been to Colorado elk hunting up by Craig, Colorado, up in the northern part.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we've been to New Mexico elk hunting, and you know, I've spent my time in the woods and stuff. And this thing right here was something I have never seen, or you know, and I was totally skeptical till I seen this thing. And
that's what I was going to ask next is what your take was prior to this on the potentiality of Sasquatch or Dogman being a real creature out in the woods.
We would watch them guys on TV. Oh, Bobo and them get out there, ooh, all this stuff in there.
Right.
I said, them guys are just riding the pony, you know?
Right. I gotcha.
And you know, and that is, I mean, that's comedy. You know, I thought so, you know, but not so much anymore. You know.
Well, it is to a certain degree. I agree 100% because it's Hollywood. It's Hollywood's version.
And you know, as much hunting as I've done, and I'm pretty stealthy because I can. A lot of times, I don't even hunt in a stand. I prefer. I've killed most of my deer walking,
stalking, and walking.
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm pretty savvy in the woods, and I'm pretty quiet because I can get up pretty close to them. You know, if they're, you know, and I've never seen anything like this, and you know, this right here just like hit a reset button on my brain.
Well, like I said, you know, sometimes I have to, part of me doesn't want to, you know, put fear out there, of course, but the other part of me says, and Dave and I and my brothers talk about this, is that we want to inform people. We're just not talking because we just wanted a show to make up. We shared, we had experiences. My brother Lane, we've all had experiences that were real, and that's why we created the show for us and for people. And since we're from Oklahoma, we wanted to create a show for Oklahoma and surrounding states. And, you know, ironically, we're getting calls all across the nation. And you've got a group of people, maybe in the thousands, that have seen something just like you that cannot wrap their head around anything or reference anything they've ever seen, because it's so immense, it's so huge, so fluid that you're just trying to associate what the hell is this?
Yeah, I mean, it was almost ghostly, like it moved so smooth. You know?
Yes.
It was crazy.
Well,
I mean,
short of having some type of a camera going all the time, 24/7 when you're on a road, that's why I think it's virtually impossible to get any pics or footage, because you see it and they're gone.
Yeah, I mean, but I was just stunned. I mean, I was like a deer in the headlight.
Yeah. Well, we try to tell people.
I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, it's like if it would have turned and started coming toward me, you know, it would have had me, because I couldn't have moved. I was frozen stiff. You know those, what is it, the goats that when you scare them, they freeze up and fall over?
Yes.
You know, basically, that's the way I was. I mean, and I was so shook. I mean, man, I had a hard time just pulling up the trailer up to the property up there, and then it was still dark outside. Man, I was sitting there, and I turned on all the lights, and I had the flashers going, you know, trying, you know.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I was just scared to death, man.
I can see why. No one can blame you.
Come up there. When Keaton got there, you know, I said, Keaton, I got to go, man. I'm sick, man. I said, I can't stay here today.
Oh.
I said, I got to go. I'm not feeling good. And, you know.
Did you tell him?
No, I have not told. I have not even told my wife, okay? Because I don't want people thinking I'm crazy.
We trust us. We 100%, 1,000% understand.
I kind of asked Dad, because my dad is an avid hunter. I mean, he hunts all the time. I mean,
Right.
And he's up there all the time. And I asked Dad, I said, what do you think about all this Bigfoot nonsense, Dad? And he goes, yeah, that's what it is, nonsense. I've been in the woods, and I ain't never seen nothing, And, Dad's Cherokee. He's a little over half Cherokee Indian. And, my grandfather was like a shaman.
Oh, really?
And
wow.
I never got to meet him. He died before I was born. But anyway, Dad, he run up and down the rivers and stuff barefooted and stuff when he was a kid, and he never seen anything, and I think if I told him that I seen one, he'd think I belonged in a loony bin or something, But,
well,
and you know what? If one of my kids would have was to tell me that they seen something, I'd say, oh, it was a bear or something, because in my mind, before I seen this thing, they don't exist. This is just a hoax. You got a guy running around with big feet on his shoes, and he's making tracks. And no, this thing right here that I seen, it was definitely real, and it was way too big to be American. And it walked just like you and me. It stood. I mean, it was straight up.
Right.
And like they said, it didn't have a neck. Its head set right down on its shoulders, and it had a huge head. But like I said, its hair was just all to the back, and I could see its cheek, and I could tell it had a beard, in the front.
Oh, right.
But I've just got a profile of its face. It never looked directly at me, and I'm kind of glad that he didn't, So
he never did look right at you at all.
No, he or she or whatever. Like I said, it was going that direction, and it paid me no mind. It didn't act like I was a threat, and I know it knows that I seen it because I stopped the truck right there. I mean, it was 30 feet, 25, 30 feet off the nose of my truck when it crossed in front of my truck.
Wow. I'm surprised I'm surprised that it was so comfortable. I mean, out of all of that area, you wonder if it was just on a mission and you happened to time it out right, or did it wait until you got to that point?
No idea.
But not looking back at you and just striding on, that's when they can easily evade and never be seen. It chose that moment just to walk on by you at an angle and keep going.
Yeah. Well, those two roads right there, that one road kind of goes off and it kind of wise right there. And the road that I take goes off to the left. Well, it's kind of sharp bend right there, and it's full thicket right there, So when I turned that corner right there, I had to slow down pretty good to make the corner.
Right.
And like I said, it was dark. And when I turned the corner, right when my truck and the trailer was about half in the corner, and he walked right across in front of that sign and right across to the other side of that other road and across that fence and into the tree line. And his whole process of going across there was probably, like I said, 10, 15 seconds, maybe if that.
Wow. Wow.
And it never broke stride, never slowed down, never sped up, just like minding his own damn business, And I'm glad.
So, do you now? this Sasquatch didn't look back. Sometimes people say that when you see one, there may be two. So it obviously didn't look back, and you've not. That was in March, you said, right, of this year.
Yeah, it was. It was the first weekend in March.
Wow. Have you been out there since then?
One time, and it was during the middle of the day, and we didn't stay long.
Was your son-in-law with you at that time as well?
No, my wife was with me. We just went up and just I wanted to go up there because I was marking out. I had surveyors go out there and mark the corners of my property because we was going to build a cabin on that. And we was also seeing if they was bringing electricity down off of that other road on my road because we heard it through the grapevine. See, it's unincorporated up there. There's no water, no electricity, or nothing to these land, to the properties.
All right.
But about a mile and a half up the road from mine, where my road tees into the next road, that road there's got electric lines on it, and I heard that they were going to turn and bring electric down my road. So we went up there and seen if they were staking anything off for any power poles or anything, which they're not. So
Right.
But no, I've been up there one time since. Keaton's been up there several times, and I told him, I said, make sure you carry a firearm with you, a pistol or something.
Right.
Don't just go up there with nothing.
Well, that's what I was going to tell people. We always talk about, and we just got through with taping or airing a segment talking about that very thing. We want people to carry everywhere they go when it comes to the woods. I realize not every circumstance in the city, people may not be have the concealed carry license in certain areas, but I tell you, when you're in the woods, our mindset and is please carry. It's not that you're going to. It's just good medicine, is the way we look at it. So the size of these creatures is beyond huge, as well as with Dogman creatures. They're huge as well. So these things are extremely fluid, evasive, strong. When you see one, you just never forget it.
Yeah, well, people talk about the trees being broke off 8 or 9 feet up.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I see why. Or I can see that happening now. Because by the time, this thing could probably reach 14, 15 feet in the air. Because like I said, his arms were down to his knees.
Wow.
And this thing was, man, it was massive. A gargantuan. I don't know how any other way to explain it.
Yeah, well, that's just it. You did. I mean, it's when people especially hunters, when you've seen bears, black bears, brown bears, antelope, moose, caribou. I mean, you get an estimation of what various species of animals are, especially in Oklahoma, North America, and most people that see these creatures, they just say, there's nothing to compare. There's nothing I have registered in my brain that compares to the sheer size of this thing. I was talking...
I don't see how more people's not seeing them.
Well, I think it's... there's a couple things. I think they are. I think on one aspect they are, but I think people, and you just said it in the very beginning, they don't tell very many people, let alone having enough courage to call like you did. I really think that for every person we get...
I have fought back and forth over this, but I just, it's been tearing me up, dude. I have trouble sleeping at night. I hear things hit on the side of the RV and stuff, because we're on the road all the time, so I carry an RV because I'm not staying in a motel. You know what I mean?
I understand. Yep.
And it's an older RV, and it makes a lot of noise and stuff. But if I hear something bump up against it or something, I'm like, I have trouble sleeping at night because any little, even when I'm at home in town, and I'll hear a noise outside, and I'm like, what is that? And it just, it's relentless. It just won't. Yeah. It's like it's got a grip on me and it won't let go. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. It sure does. We have the same issues. I mean, when you see these things, and when we go out, it's not that we're not 10 feet tall and bulletproof. We've heard a lot of different things that are not man-made, and so when I come home, I have to decompress. And the good thing that we have is I have my brothers and Wily Dave, because we've all had experiences. We've all had experiences in my group, so we can kind of share immediately and kind of decompress. Whereas, like in your case, you really can't do that. And that's why these shows exist, because you really can't go to the law, because there was no laws broken, there was no crime. And you can't go to people that's known you, because they start thinking you fell off mentally, and if you hold an important position or community, or you have respect based on what you do for a living, people are real cautious about what they share. So it's one of a...
That's exact. And I've got a lot of people under me. I don't want none of these guys thinking I'm nuts.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exactly.
Well, there's been people that are pastors of churches. There's been people that are doctors, attorneys, retirees from the military, active military at very high-ranking positions, that they just, for every person, and I don't know this for an exact fact, but I'm just kind of throwing this out as an example. We talk about for every person that calls into a show, not just ours, but any show, I believe there are at least 24 people that will never call in that saw something. And I don't mean that they saw something and they misidentified it. I mean they truly saw something that was a Squatch or a Dogman or something out there that was a very clear subject. They saw something that was clear as day, that is not a bear, it wasn't a man, it's too big, it moved too fast, it was too tall, and they'll never say a word. They'll never call a show. Well, and here's the other thing. They don't even know these shows exist. Not everybody has a computer, and even if they did, not everybody knows to go onto YouTube and to look and search. Where do they search for this? So a lot of people, they just go to the grave with it. And so, but here's the thing. Here's what we do know. When something is eating at you, when something's gnawing on your conscious, your brain, and you're trying to make sense of it. You don't know why you saw it. Why did I see this? Why was I by myself? Why did I have to see this? Why now? Those are questions that my brother Lane, we asked the same thing. We don't know. But what we do know is that when you do share, it's releasing, because trust us, we understand you're not crazy. We're not going to judge you, because we've had our own experiences we can't explain. And at the time, it was terrifying for us. It was terrifying. And to this day, my dad, he's kind of like your dad. My dad's been hunting for, my gosh, my dad is in his mid-70s, and he asked the question point blank. He said, Lance, can you explain how come I haven't seen? I said, no, I can't. I can't. I said, but in one realm of that question is, how do you know you've not been near one? You may have walked right by it and never knew it. So
Right.
I think these creatures will allow themselves to be seen if they want. Why? I don't know. But if they don't want to be seen, I promise you will not see them. They blend in. They're masters of their environment. And they're so fast, you could look one way and they duck behind a tree. You look another way, they're just gone. So, my dad had a valid question, but I can't answer why or why not. I think just some people are at the right time, at the right place, for whatever reasons, and it's good to share. It's good to get it off your chest because you're in the same community we are, trust me, and with other hundreds and hundreds of people.
Right. And this thing on its arms, it had the hair on the back of its arms was like a fringe.
Was like a what?
Like a cocker spaniel or something. You know what I'm saying?
No.
On like the underneath of like where his elbow is.
Yes.
Yeah, his hair was longer on the. It had like.
Oh, okay. I know. Yes, okay. So it was a little bit longer where it kind of came down on the bottom of it.
Yeah, it like a cocker spaniel's. The edge around a cocker spaniel's belly.
Yes.
That's the way it was on the back of his arms.
Interesting.
And because I could see. I mean, I looked right through my passenger window. It was down. And he was probably about 40, 45 feet at this time going away from me. And I could, I watched him, and clean. People say they're all matted up and stuff. No, this thing was clean. Because his hair was, like I said, it moved like a horse's mane. It had been brushed. I mean, it was just...
Right.
And like I said, I didn't smell anything. And it was just... It was weird.
So tell me, now that you've been back one time since March, what... And, I know it shook you up. What's your plans now with that property being so close to that sighting? I mean, how are you going to go back? Are you going to hunt that? And if you do, what precautions are you going to take, and who's going to go?
I'm probably going to make sure that we got 2 people in each deer stand. For sure. I'm not letting my young grandkids go sit in a deer stand by themselves.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you.
I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to scare him.
Right.
Because this thing scared the hell out of me, and it would really scare him just being, just by telling him.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to, there. I know that there's young.
I've got a lot of money tied up in that place.
Oh, I'm sure you do. I mean, those properties, they can, when you have a property, when you manage it well, you can get a lot of money tied up quick.
Yeah, I've got I've got $2,000 or more just in deer stands and deer feeders.
Oh, I know. It adds up so quick when you get into an area like that. It's the sky's the limit. It just...
and you know what? Something else about my cameras, every once in a while, I'll get a picture that's just totally black.
Really? Is it in the middle of daytime shots? Do you notice that?
As a matter of fact, I think it is in the daytime.
Okay, let me tell you. We had a camera that happened too. And so it's not in fact, I had a camera set out down in McCurtain County where we go deer hunting. And it's remote down there. I don't know if you've ever been down there deer hunting. And we were getting a lot of shots of wildlife on this major game trail, and got a black bear climbing a tree in front of the trail cam and all these, cool shots. But during the daytime photos, all of a sudden it was black. we had a black photo. And because I could tell, because it still printed the date and the time in the lower corner.
Right.
It wasn't a glitch in the camera. And I didn't think anything of it till I had someone that I was on the phone with. I think this gentleman was in Utah or Kentucky, and he was talking about the very same thing. And then I started putting two and two together, and I wonder if what they're doing is putting their hand in front of that camera, and it's going off. It's triggering that motion sensor. So it's completely, they're either, and this is again my theory, they're either putting their hand in front of that camera and taking what they want, eating what they want, knowing that that camera's going to cover, it takes pictures of them, and so by triggering, you just get black, so they can do what they want, then they just quickly remove their hand. So that's another theory. We've seen that before too.
Right, so they're really smart then, huh?
Oh, yeah. See, this is the thing that it's one thing to see something that you've never seen before that's that large, that can move that quick. It's just mind-twisting. But it's another thing to know that these things are self-aware. Now, when I say that, what I mean is that they have the understanding, they have a language of their own, they have an understanding that they are among us, that we are different than them, that they are huge, they have the capability to hide from us, they are self-aware on social structures. They, again, like I said, they have their own language. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as the Dogman creature, they have their own language. They have their own thought processes, and they're self-aware. And, you know, Kumbo and Bear talk about this. And I guess to sum it up, being self-aware is recognizing your own mortality, that you can die and you are alive. So that's what I mean when I say they're self-aware.
Right.
They know what those metal fire sticks are that we call rifles. They know what those metal small fire sticks we call pistols are, that if we point one at them, they could die. They know that. They know that. And so being self-aware takes a higher intelligence of some degree. A deer doesn't know or have self-awareness. A bear doesn't have self-awareness. A raccoon doesn't have self-awareness. But these things do. So you've got some, do you have cameras out right now out there on that property?
Yeah, I've got two cameras. I've got one camera which is not far off the road. Actually, where I'm going to build my cabin, I was going to put like a balcony up. I was going to build like one of those barn top, you know, that's got the real steep roof and then it flattens, you know, goes to another pitch at the top, like an old barn.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And then I was going to use the top part as bedrooms and stuff. Well, I was going to build a balcony off the back of that so I could look down on the deer stand.
Hey, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
And anyway, and then I've got, my property's like 450 foot wide, and then it's like, man, it goes back. Well, I've got 26 acres. You know, it's a big, long strip.
Oh, yeah. So you've got plenty then.
What it does is, it's where my cabin is right there by the road. Well, it starts going down there, and it goes down, and there's a creek in the bottom, and then it starts going up on the other side.
Oh.
So I've got on the back side, on the very back, I've got my other deer stand, and then it's looking on another feeder. So, you know, if we're shooting at the feeders, we're shooting down into the creek. You know, so we're not actually shooting at each other. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So it actually works out really well. And man, I've got pictures. I've got 3 big bucks under my feeder and right there by my cabin where I'm gonna build the cabin.
Yes.
At the same time.
Wow.
And I mean, they're nice sized bucks. I can send you some pictures if you want. But
yeah, if you would please, I'd like to see that. I always appreciate big, beautiful deer like that.
And I mean, I love this place, and this right here is just, it's got me second thinking about it. But
well, let me make a suggestion, if you don't mind.
From what y'all are saying, these things are everywhere.
Well, that's the thing, is that, we get calls, and I probably get about a call every week or two of people from all over Oklahoma, and especially since I've been to a lot of the small towns and cities in Oklahoma, and they'll say, is it in my county? Have you heard of any sightings or eyewitness in my county or my town? And, you don't get someone from every town calling in, but I'll just tell them, I'll say, look, it's totally possible, because, I mean, they're free roaming, they're opportunistic, they can be everywhere. So what people, most of us want to think these things are in thick wooded areas where there's water and there's plenty of game and vegetation, which is true.
Well, there's a lot of game there where I'm at, because we got pigs, down not too far from where I've seen him at. I've seen pigs out in the field out there, And,
right. Well, and that's
not so much up on the mountain though, but I have got a pig or two on my cameras.
Well, see, pigs, deer, turkey, and small game. When you have those, and you have water sources, and you have nut and wild berry, choke cherries, persimmons, and things like that, that is a prime.
Those wild grapes up there.
Yes.
All over that one property that's just down below me. There's those wild grapes that my grandma used to pull over the side of the road and pick them and make jam out of them. With her old pressure cooker. Yes.
Yeah,
there's tons of those grapes down on the bottom down there, not too far from my place.
Well, see, you've got, to them, that's like a buffet. Why? And, I know that people get in discussion, and I'm not going to say I know exactly, but the way I look at things is very simple. If you've got plenty of cover and you've got so many differences in variety of food sources and a real thick habitat there's very little people traffic, why would you want to leave? It's kind of like the way I look at here in Tulsa where I live. We've got, you've got a Sam's Wholesale, you got a gas station less than a mile, you've got movie theaters, you've got all kinds of outlets, you've got a Lowe's, you've got an Atwoods, and all these, you can get anything you want within a 3-mile radius. Why would you really want to go very many places? And I think that a lot of these Sasquatch and Dogman are the same thing. I'm not saying they can't migrate or hunt within a larger range, because I think they do. I think the social structure, some of them are shunned maybe. They get older and you have more of the alpha male dominant or alpha female. But to a certain degree, I think they stay fairly close by if they like an area. They don't really leave. So I'm not trying to scare you or anything. I'm just saying that might be one that's in that area that's been there a long time, and this is the first time you've ever seen it.
Yeah, I hope it's the last, tell you the truth.
I don't blame you there. I really don't. I mean, everybody.
What are some signs I could look for that thing being on my property?
Well, you mentioned one. You talked about the tree breaks. Now, the difference in your tree breaks is going to be, it's typically not going to be at the 5-foot level. When you have one that large, you're going to probably see it at about, I'm going to say at least 6 foot and higher. At least.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything like that on my place, and I haven't seen any, they show those tree structures or whatever they do,
Yes.
I haven't seen anything like that. Now, we got a friend of ours that has he's got like one of those yard barns on his place over there.
Yes.
And something broke into his yard barn. He had power tools in there and a generator and stuff. All that was there, just everything was just ripped off the shelves.
Was there any food or anything he had, storage, like canned goods or beans or rice or anything like that?
He had some deer corn in there, but I don't think he did at the time. Now, I don't know that for a fact.
Because typically it's going to be food in nature. If they break in, sweet feed, oats, corn, things like that.
That's what we couldn't figure out, is why somebody would break in. If they were going to break in there, they would have stole his skill saw.
Well, that's exactly right. They would have stolen.
And his chainsaw.
Exactly. Well, you're looking for the breaks. The breaks are kind of a sign of a territorial type of sign. Another thing to look for is, what game trails look like, right?
Oh, yeah.
So here's the thing. As large as this thing is, you would think it would have a swath through the trees about 3 foot wide, 4 foot wide, but that's actually not true. What you're looking for is going to be a smaller trail, maybe about the width of its foot. So we're going to say 9 to 10 inches in width. When these things move, they don't have a gait like you and I, where we walk with our left foot is walking and it has its own line of path, and its right foot, we don't walk like a runway model, in other words. These things do. They walk in a line. So when you're looking for a game trail that they're using, and they'll use sometimes game trails, or they'll create their own trails if it's a frequent trail to water or food sources quite a bit, you're looking for a trail that's about 6 inches to 9 inches in width, and it's heavily packed down. It's hard from their weight. So
you're saying they step 1 foot in front of the other?
Yes, sir. Now, it's hard. They're not going to look like a runway model when they do it, when humans do it, when females do it. They have these things have a bone structure and hip. Their hip structures and knee structures actually have a difference in the way they swivel and their anatomy and in their gait cycle. So it's going to look so fluid that you need to break everything down. They did this analyzation with the Gimlin Patterson film, each frame, and how that squatch, that female squatch, moved. No man can replicate. No man can replicate, and it was in a line. So what you're looking for is a packed down trail. Now they'll also typically walk along the length of the logs. If there is log structures and they walk along the length of the logs. But you're looking for a beat down hard path, only about 6 to 9 inches in width. And also you're looking for, if a path goes uphill or downhill, look of about 6 foot and higher if you've got saplings 1 to 2 inches in diameter of where the bark is wore down, where they're grabbing. Just like you or I would reach for a sapling to pull ourselves up with.
I know exactly what they're using them as walking sticks. Basically.
Exactly, yes, sir. So look for those wear patterns on the bark where it's kind of wore down and shined just a little bit.
Right, because my property, it goes down at a really good incline, and then it goes up, and then you got the creek at the bottom, and then it goes up at a pretty good incline on the other side too.
Well, and even though they're a heck of a lot more agile than you and I, they still slip. And they still stumble every once in a while. We had I don't know if you listened to the episode in which the lady that was out in southeast of Oklahoma City, her name was Jean, and she.
Listen to that. That's the one that I got your number off of.
Oh, okay.
The one that she slipped down in and hit the front of her car?
Yep, that's the one. And,
yeah.
And she...
And I've only listened to like a couple of them off YouTube because, it was eating on me, and I got thinking, well, hell, anything's on YouTube, because we were out there fixing a tractor, and we couldn't figure out how to get the fuel filter case off. And one of the guys said, YouTube, but everything's on YouTube.
Right.
And he said that, and I got to thinking the next night, which was Monday night, I guess it was, and I was sitting here in my RV like I am now, because, we work 12 hours a day. And I'm lucky to be home 6 days a month.
Wow.
And, I work all the time. And I'm sitting here, and right now my DirecTV's messed up, so I'm watching DVDs, and right now I was watching Cahill, John Wayne Cahill.
Oh, yeah.
While I was eating.
Good show.
And, yeah, it's a good movie. And anyway, he said, and that just kept going through me, so I put in Bigfoot, Oklahoma. And then bam, 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 And, well, that's how
you found us?
So,
yeah,
that brought me to this point here.
Well, I'm so glad that we made contact. When people contact the show, I really look at them as friends, because we're in a community now together. Because we started the show because of things that we encountered, and we told some close. I told a couple buddies, and of course, what did they do? They made fun of you. You made fun of me, and they thought I fell off my rocker, and so I just kind of stopped telling them. And we told my dad, and my dad was he ranked it up there with the Easter Bunny and
exactly.
Santa Claus.
Exactly. My dad's the same way.
And
and he's got such a dry sense of humor. He just, he's straightforward. I don't know, the closest person I think that could describe my dad would be Ernest on Pure Country, if you remember that show.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long time. I know what you're talking about. How funny.
People spend too much time talking when they should be eating, sleeping, or working. That's my dad's philosophy.
I love it. Yep.
And, and that's just the way he is. We Dad grew up, and he's self-made. But he's doing well. He drives new trucks, and he's doing good.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, I tell you, that's I feel very privileged every time someone calls. Like I said, anytime you want to call and talk, I still talk. In fact, I talked to 3 folks today that's got my number, and they always text me and keep me abreast of what's going on, and if anything should come up, and they've called a couple times, hey, here's a picture of this, what do you think? And I got this on my game camera, what do you think? And so
exactly.
I feel very privileged that you called, and I know it wasn't easy. I know sometimes people feel that these shows aren't, I know some people, they must feel that these are not worthwhile, but it really, in sharing and having the show, it helps us.
Right.
Not necessarily the show itself, but it helps us realize that we've never been alone with what we experienced, and it makes us feel part of something. So, I'm glad that it was a safe encounter. I know it was a scary encounter, and I can't blame you for feeling where you don't get sleep. It gnaws at you. Your brain is still trying to wrap your head around it. And
exactly.
I know when we got back from deer camp last year, it took me a couple of weeks to kind of settle down. I kept hearing in my dreams all those vocalizations, what we heard that night.
Yeah.
And
What kind of sound do they make?
Well,
it ain't like Bobo screaming out, is it?
No, that's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I trust me. The immense strength of the sound is totally different. what you're going to hear, no man can make up.
You know that movie, what is it, Legend of Boggy Creek? You know that shriek sound that it makes in that movie?
Yeah.
Is it kind of like that?
Sorta. There is what we heard when we were in deer camp was we heard, and this was about 4 a.m. in the morning. And prior to that, I want to tell you, the silence that was in our camp was so silent and quiet, it was deafening. It was so, I didn't hear one cricket.
It's been that way at the place.
Yeah.
Before.
That is a very common theme, if you will. I mean, it's almost like on cue, everything goes silent. That's the way it was for 2 nights in a row in our camp, and it was so quiet that I could not sleep because I'm in the city here. I got the fan going, I keep my television on, I got my computer in front of my face, I got the lamplight on, I'm getting texts at night, so my body is used to this. So this is why I like to get out and get away. I don't mind crickets and the babbling of water and the creek and the wind and all that. I can sleep fine. But those nights, I could not sleep. It was so quiet. Something was up.
Yeah, because we've been out there at night, and, we'd stay out there till, 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock at night. Then we'd go down into Atoka to the motel and sleep,
Right.
But we was out there, and we were just, burning stuff in there. And, I mean, you could hear a pin drop out there.
Yeah.
All you heard was our fire. That was it. No animals, nothing. The night before, I mean, it sounded like an orchestra.
Yeah.
You got the frogs, you got, everything. The sound of a forest.
Oh, yeah.
And, that last night, it was like totally silent. But I didn't think nothing about it, Even my wife goes, man, it sure is quiet out here, and just didn't think anything about it.
Yeah, exactly. Because
we didn't know.
Well, that's just it. When it gets that quiet, I just felt something was different. Something was up. Something was out there that was watching, and I didn't know. And it's not that we didn't know these things existed. We did. But we had so many people in our camp. It was just a very strange, the hackles went up on your neck. You just knew something was around. And my ears were so attentive to every little snap and everything. And we did hear something rummaging around our camp the next night, for sure. And so, well, in closing here, and again, I can't thank you enough here, and we'll keep in contact.
You helped me more than I helped you, trust me.
You've got my number. This is my personal number. You can call any time. I don't care what time of the day it is. Call me. If you see something or you just want to talk, it doesn't matter to me. And okay. Is there any final words you would like to say or anything for folks that that are out there that don't think these things are real, or they're avid hunters and they're going out? Is there anything any good advice?
They're real. That's all I got to say is they're real. I mean, I'm sorry, man. I'm getting choked up now, but they're real. I know what I saw, and I'm not crazy. I'm the least craziest person you'll ever know. Really? And I know what I saw, and it wasn't a bear. And, like I said, this thing they're dangerous. It didn't show any kind of aggression to me or nothing. But, I mean, if this thing could, it could have turned my truck over if it wanted to. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, we've heard that a couple times. We've heard that numerous times.
And I just, man, just prepare yourself for the unexpected. That's all I can say. Because this thing caught me totally unaware, and you know what? I feel like I'm lucky, just that it left me alone. You know, because I've like I said, I've read a couple of these stories, and it, you know, it goes and bangs on the window, you know, and stuff. That thing, it wouldn't have had a window to bang on because my window was down. I mean, it would have just reached in and grabbed me. You know?
Right. Yeah.
And,
well, I'm glad it was a safe encounter. I mean, if anything, I mean, a lot of people that see these wish they never would have saw them. I know a lot of people say, "I want to see one. I want to see one." But the irony is just what you said. They go, the people that do, they go, no, you never wanted to see one. I don't want to see one again, and I hope I never do.
Right. But I seen his right, you know, a perpendicular. I seen him. He was, you know, he had his shoulder square with me, you know, long ways like this, and I could see the side of his, you know, the side of his leg, and like I said, I seen the profile, and he was 3 foot wide, 2'6", 3 foot wide, somewhere in there.
Dang.
I mean, he was huge.
Wow. Well, buddy, I wanna thank you again. Please call me anytime. You know, when people call, I consider them a friend.
It freaked me out, dude.
I'm sure it did, man. You have every right to be freaked out too. You know, it's a process.
I want to tell you right now, I stayed drunk for 2 days after I got home because this thing, you know,
it shakes your soul up. That's the way I look at it. It just shakes your soul up because you go, wait a minute, these damn things aren't supposed to exist.
Right.
That's what I said to myself. These aren't supposed to exist. Wait a minute. That's just Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
So.
And it was so surreal. It was just crazy, you know?
Trust us. I understand 100%. Well, give me a call. If you don't mind, I'll call you next week, maybe a couple weeks, touch base with you, see how you're doing.
Okay.
And someday.
Maybe sometime. You live in Tulsa, not too far. Sometimes when I get a little time, maybe we can meet up there by the place and eat some lunch, and I'll go up there and show you exactly where it was.
Perfect. Absolutely.
You can see this sign because this Pittsburgh sign is, like I'm telling you, it's up there high enough to where I've got to actually jump a little bit to even touch the bottom of the sign.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love that. We'd love to do that.
I don't know. You remember the vaccination shots you used to get in the arm?
Yeah.
That's about the height that this sign was on this thing.